Hi, everybody. Welcome to the land of the Stratosphere Lounge, where we have to hit four buttons where we used to only have to hit one. Caused some interesting problems for us last week because, as it turns out, I have to turn off three buttons when I only used to have to turn off one. I think I'm blacked out. Oh, there I am. Okay, back and forth we go. Anyway, it's good to be here. We're doing once again, until we find something better, we're doing the web-based kind of low-res thing live. But we are recording on 720 HD for the YouTube version, which I'll upload directly. So I hope everybody's doing well, and I hope we are in actual business here. I think we probably are. So let's see what's new. I've got some space stuff to talk about, and we'll talk about space tonight. I always have to keep saying I want to keep this one relatively brief, but they're getting down to about an hour and a half instead of 3 hours anyway. So let me see. Yes, by the way, I see in the live comments, anybody else notice he was a bit down in the backstage? I was completely, utterly demoralized during the backstage right angles this week. And it's just watching these things happen and I'm feeling better now. One of the reasons I'm feeling better, some of the things that I learned earlier today, so we'll talk about those a little bit. And by the way, why so dark? I don't know, I just felt like a black t-shirt with my Velocity t-shirt. Lovely airplane. The individual model that I got a hold of I tried to kill me a few times, but we don't worry about that. I am a floating head, and I like being a floating head, and it's kind of cool. In fact, I'm going to sell it. Strangely enough, that seems to make it a little easier to see. But in any event, here we are. Oh, you meant the studio. I thought you were talking about the thing. Well, in any event, here we are. One of the reasons I was so bummed out, especially the last couple of weeks, is because the Facebook shadow banning and the YouTube suppression and all the rest, aside from the fact that it's just disheartening. That's one of its intentions, obviously. The thing that was so worrisome about that, to me, continues to be worrisome, is that, as I might have said before, as long as we had the internet, I always felt like we could get the message out. And we made, as I said, I think we talked about this last week, made a big mistake moving to Facebook and YouTube exclusively. And one of the really bright people who are part of the Aurora project, which won't get mentioned here tonight, but somebody sent me a link to something, and I have to tell you, I usually feel like I'm kind of up on these things, and it surprised me that I'd never heard of something that seems to be as well established as what it is. But I'll just talk to you for a few minutes about blockchain. I've been looking into it for the last hour or so, and as I say, I normally get those things, and a little earlier than this. So I'd never heard of blockchain before an hour or two ago. So here's the deal. There's a technology out called blockchain. It's been there for a while, but for those of you who haven't heard of it or heard a little bit about it, there's DTube. Matt Harris puts a comment up just as I'm talking about this, and he hasn't heard it yet because he's on the stream delay. It's a strange coincidence. DTube is an example of a blockchain site, and there's a number of others. But basically, in a nutshell, here's how it works, as I understand it. The internet was designed to survive nuclear attack, and the entire purpose of the internet was to distribute not only information, but distribute the pathways that the information travels by, so that when you send a message from one place to another, it doesn't just go down one tube, it goes down multiple courses. It's reassembled on the back end, checked against each other for errors, and that's how your picture or your email or whatever you're doing gets there. And I'm not going to talk about Bitcoin, I'm afraid, Mark, because I don't know anything about Bitcoin other than what most people know about it. But here's what's interesting apparently about blockchain. Blockchain, again, this is 2 hours old for me, is something that gives me enormous hope because it looks like the kind of thing that could actually change the world. And specifically, again, I'm not talking about cryptocurrencies or Bitcoin. I'm talking about blockchain. I think it's much better to talk about this other than as cryptocurrencies because if I understand blockchain correctly, cryptocurrency is just a small part of a much bigger picture. Essentially, what blockchain does is it takes information that used to be centralized, encrypts it, and spreads it out among all of the people that are party to this transaction, whether they're users or vendors or whatever the case may be. In the example I saw in a TED Talk was really well done. It basically said, and this is something I'd never considered before, independent of blockchain. It's really a really cool idea. A really new idea for me. It's very, very interesting. Basically, it goes like this. We have invented things like corporations and banks in order to reduce uncertainty. It's a thought I never had before, but it's a really, really big insight into how the world works. In other words, you go up to somebody who you don't know and say, here's my life savings, hold on to this for me. We have a fair amount of uncertainty there. You don't know the person, you don't know if they're reputable or honest, you don't know whether they're going to take your money or not, and if they do take your money, you don't know whether or not you can get it back or you're going to find them, all the rest of it. So we have institutions like corporations and banks in order to reduce uncertainty. We still give money to strangers, but we give them to large numbers of strangers. And the theory being that having an established, back in the last several centuries, an established brick and mortar building with, with guys in visors behind steel grates adds credibility to the fact that I'm giving things of value to people I don't know. So what banks and corporations do or have done is decrease uncertainty. That's a profound insight that I've never heard of before, ever. But it's great, and I always like it when I get something new to chew on. So that's very interesting. So these things are designed to reduce uncertainty. So now we live in the... let me do this before I forget. I'd like to thank the people that sent me birthday cards, especially you know who you are. And also, before I forget, I would like to congratulate our friend Vipercheck on his 23rd wedding anniversary, which was held last night. And I just thought I'd mention it on the air instead of telling him privately. I thought I'd tell him personally. Foghorn, you married up. That's all I have to say. And that poor, long-suffering woman of yours, presumably suffering from extreme myopia or whatever the explanation is. In any event, congratulations, sincerely. I really mean that. It's a big achievement. 23 years of marriage, and especially to you. And I can speak from a position of certainty here because I've been married to someone for a little over a year, and I'm much harder to deal with. Anyway, congratulations, sincerely. You're a really good friend, and I'm really glad to be working with you. Unlike certain other miscreants who should go unnamed at this time. So here we go. So back to blockchain. So the idea is to reduce uncertainty, and by reducing uncertainty, we have greater confidence in transactions, and the more confidence we have in transactions, the faster we can make the transactions, the cheaper they are, because you don't have to pay all the bankers and all the rest of this stuff and so on. So as we get into the information age, we have a perfect example of what blockchain is here to basically enforce, to make into rules what used to be simply guidelines, basically become the laws of physics and stuff. So a good example that was used in this TED Talk I saw on this goes something like this. I want to buy a cell phone from somebody on eBay. And basically, that means that I'm going to have to send, $600-700 or whatever for a used phone for $500, let's say, my hard-earned money to somebody who I've never met before, and hope that person sends me the phone. And as soon as this online phenomenon started, as soon as we start to get out of brick and mortar buildings, I don't go down to Best Buy where I have some confidence that if I give somebody at Best Buy $500, they're going to give me a phone. When eBay came along and really started the tip of the spear of this kind of online economy, there was this enormous problem of uncertainty. In other words, how do I know? I'm buying from an individual. All eBay's doing is connecting the two people together. How do I know that this person's reliable? And so they came up with the rating system, and it turns out that works very, very, very well, because criminals don't, generally speaking, have the patience to establish a good, long, credible record, because if they did, they wouldn't be criminals. They'd be making money legitimately. And people who do make money legitimately on eBay protect their reputation with everything they've got. It's their entire future as salespeople is their reputation. One bad review, hey, this guy stole my money and I never saw it again. Among 100 reviews, you might be tempted to say, okay, well, maybe this guy's just an outlier or somebody doesn't really like him or anything. But when you get down to 50% of the reviews saying the guy stole my money, well, then now you know that's probably not the guy you want to buy from. So what blockchain does is it kind of encrypts all of your transactions and forms a sort of a record of your reputation. This part of it I'm not as clear on as the rest of it, and I'm a little more worried about this particular part of it. But the one thing I do like about it is this idea of automatic contracts. And back to the cell phone example. So an automatic contract would be I'm going to buy a phone from somebody, and I deposit money someplace, but the money doesn't go to the seller. The money goes into the blockchain escrow. It's not a bank account. It's not a single bank account. It's basic. I don't know how that happens exactly, but basically what it means is when the other side fulfills the contract that you have both agreed to, in other words, both parties say point 1, point 2, point 3, and if we get to point 1 and then 2 and then 3, then the money's released. Well, this happens automatically. And you don't need a middleman. You don't need a bank. You don't need PayPal. You don't need a judge. You don't need anything. When the phone arrives, I release the money. And if I don't release the money, then the phone possession and all the tracking and all the rest of it is there, so on and so forth. Here's what it matters. I don't really get the nuances of it, other than to say that I understand. I think the basic part of it, and the basic part of it is this, and this is the good news. Blockchain allows people to interact directly without having to go through a third party such as Facebook or YouTube, for example. Right now, in the model as the model exists, if people watch my videos and I put a commercial up in front of the videos on YouTube, then advertisers take a look at the number of views, pay YouTube. YouTube takes a percentage, a cut, and they give me what's left. They send the rest of it to me. But with blockchain, viewers are able to directly pay me, and they're able to directly pay on a basis of how much the video gets seen. I'm still obviously very new on this, but here's what I like about it. It sounds to me like it is the technological solution to the middlemen, and the middlemen have been what's been depressing me so much. The fact that Facebook and YouTube seem to be in full-blown competition to see which one of them can basically shut us down first. And blockchain basically runs around at least the monetary end of that. Not only the advertising end of it, it runs around the viewing end of it. It basically is able to pay for eyeballs directly to the person who's generating the eyeballs, and That is very, very good news. Once this technology becomes standardized, I suspect it's the end of Facebook as we know it, and the end of YouTube as we know it too. Wouldn't that make me happy? That'd make everybody happy. The idea that the information that we have is encrypted and can only be uncrypted by the sequence of the events to the person that we send it to. The only people that are able to get any of the information is the information that we allow those people to see, and we basically determine who those people are. We don't have to log on to a central computer. I know it's not one computer, but essentially we don't have to log on to this single computer at Facebook where Facebook stores everything on Facebook servers and then decides what to do with that data, including mining the data, stealing your information, selling it to advertisers, suppressing messages they don't like. With blockchain, the process is absolutely automatic, and it's peer-to-peer, it's direct. They're not only are there not individuals monitoring this, there's no central bottleneck like Facebook.com to do all of this, hang on. Let me just answer this request I've gotten from our friend Foghorn. Excuse me one second. I know we're dealing with this in real time. Well, that's an actual shame, buddy, because I just 60 seconds ago congratulated you on your 23rd wedding anniversary on the air live. Like I'm speaking to you on the air live now. You should be embarrassed, ashamed of yourself. So Foghorn will presumably be joining us later, and he can watch this on YouTube. Anyway, that's that. So I'm going to, needless to say, be doing a lot more reading and looking into this. But it's one of those horizon things, and it's here. It's not like, gee, this technology may exist someday in 10 years. I mean, they're already, I think I remember seeing IBM is involved with 63 clients, something 400 different blockchain kind of things. But the reason this is so exciting to me is because it's not just Facebook, it's not just the technology, it's not just any of this. The pattern of civilizational decline that I see always seems to come from the people at the top. It's the people at the top who basically decide that they're bored and that it's time for the walls to fall. And this further makes the connection among regular people. And when you if you could take news, information, and all of the money associated with Hollywood, the news media, Facebook, YouTube, if you could take all of those people out of the way and just have people making videos, people watching videos, and the transactions occurring directly between the two parties without having to pay any intermediate, that is essentially what blockchain is enabling us to do. And at that point, we're back in the game again. And so this is something I'm going to be watching very, very carefully. And it's good news. It's very good news, I think. So anyway, enough for that.